Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome back. Well, a really big day today in the shop here, and that's because this 69 Roadrunner convertible is going to get completely stripped down and yeah, further damage assessment, make sure there's nothing else hidden before we put our parts list together and get it on order from our friends over at AMD. So that said, hood's coming off, hinges are coming off, fenders, doors, deck lid. Probably first, this disgusting ass shag carpet that's wet and stinking. That's gonna come out of here. Got to take a vacuum, clean out all the loose rust, everything that's in there, because in the next video, guys, once I have the parts, we're gonna go ahead, we're gonna start cutting on this thing. And my goal is to make very quick work out of the metal work on this car, because again, this car is only here for metal. I'm not doing the full restoration on this, and it'll be back in the hands of our friends over at Shade Tree Vintage Auto so they can pass it on to body and paint and get this thing back on the road. If you guys can imagine this not so appealing gold color, maybe some of your favorites, definitely not one of mine. Certainly isn't as bad as that pea green that's on all my other cars, but it's still pretty bad. But if you can imagine this, fully orange is the color they're gonna go with, and it's gonna look spectacular when it's finished. So again, this car has been sitting for about 30 years. The owner hasn't even been able to drive the car. He's just been looking at it for the last 30 years. So I'm very proud and honestly so excited to be part of this build on getting this thing back on the road and taking it back to the owner and him building one absolutely badass car out of it. So without further ado, let's go ahead, let's grab some ratchet setups. And actually, you know what? First, one thing I did want to say about this car, and really any of these cars, especially older Mopars, okay? When you buy a car that's in this condition, and let's just say, like, as it sits today, let's just say no motor, no parts, no nothing, this car could very easily sell for $10,000 to $20,000, right? And then you can imagine a sheet metal bill on top of that, a tremendous labor bill on top of that. You can get over your skis pretty fast on these builds, and before you know it, you'll be putting it on Marketplace because you don't quite have the budget to get it done. And it's really, really easy to do, because you look online, you'll see, well, hey, that's 200 bucks, that's 300 bucks, but when you add everything up together, guys, it's a ton of money. So before I get started, I want you guys to think, and those of you that watched the first video here, what do you think just the sheet metal bill alone is on this car? So, you know, we're doing trunk pan, drops, quarters, floors. We're doing a lot of channel work on here. A lot of this is going to be fabricated. I won't be buying that. But just what do you guys think that this metal bill is going to be? And at the end of this video, I will be very honest with you guys, and I'm going to show you exactly what it costs just in metal to do a car like this. And if you can do the work yourself, great. If you can't do the work yourself, 70 to 100 bucks an hour, pretty standard shop rates nowadays. And yeah, you can get in over your head pretty damn quick with a car like this. So enough talking, let's grab some tools, let's get this car taken apart, and let's finish up that damage assessment. Alrighty, you guys, so I worked late into the night last night. I got just about everything off of this subframe to take it out. We got our torsion bars out. I tell you what, that 10-pound slide hammer make pretty quick work out of that, wrapping the chain around there. Nice little trick, and saved me a whole lot of cuss words and frustration. I got the upper control arms off. We got our struts disconnected, brake lines disconnected, steering linkage disconnected, and everything is just about ready to drop out. So I pop out 1, 2, 3 subframe bolts, and of course, the last one here, the damn nut on the inside of the frame rail, the speed nut that's in there ended up breaking, and so it's just spinning in place. There's no way to get it out. There's no real way to access it either with the frame rails completely sealed up like this. So what I'm gonna have to do, I'm gonna have to employ the help of my friend Mr. Sawzall here. I have just enough room. It did loosen up enough where this subframe's actually hanging just a touch, probably about 1/8 of an inch. I should be able to get that blade in there. We'll cut the bolt off, we'll get this thing out of the way, and then I will, because to put it up onto the dollies, I need to have 2 mount points here on each side. So I'm pretty sure the QA1 front subframe kit does require you to drill out this bump stop if it's the same as the E-body. And so we'll get this thing out of the way. We're gonna have to put a little hole in the frame rail itself to get in there, access, take out that nut. We will go ahead and weld in a brand new one there and seal it back up, and you won't ever be able to tell. But just something you got to deal with. Unfortunately, on these older cars, guys, you're going to find stuff like that. You're going to break bolts off. You're going to do a lot of things. Speaking of broken bolts, don't be one of them guys that forgets that there's left-hand threads on the driver's side of these vehicles. I can't remember if it's up to like 71, 72, 73, something like that. But I definitely tried to undo these studs here, and yeah, left-hand threads. So thankfully I didn't snap anything off, and I was able to get them out just fine. So yeah, let's go ahead, we'll grab the Sawzall here, cut that bolt off, and let's get this front subframe out of the way. Alrighty, you guys, so I've got the car pretty much completely stripped down here. We got all of our brake lines out of it. We got everything off the firewall. We've still got these to take off. I'm going to take my needler and clean up around these screws here so we can get them off, because they undercoat right over the top of these pieces right here. But they're actually in awesome shape. I've never had a car where I've been able to save those, so it's good to see those in place and in good shape. Here across the back, gas lines, brake lines, all the brackets, everything is off the back side of here. And it's always good, especially with this car, you know, with all the surface rust and different things. This car is going to get blasted, at least the metal that's remaining on it, and I don't want to get it blasted, leave these brackets on, and still have the surface rust underneath that. So basically, if it's got screws, it's coming off this car. Across the back here, completely bare. And now to the front. So this is the pesky subframe mount bolt here. If you look up in there, you can actually see that nut kind of floating around when I touch it, okay? So not good. There's really no saving that, and unfortunately there's really no access to it either. So the other side here has that bump stop like I showed you earlier. So this side appears to be the easiest of the two to probably get into, and we're only going to cut as big of a section as we need to open this up. I'll probably try to just go up, over, and down, maybe fold it down, but I'm pretty sure if it's not double walled, that I might be able to get away with that. If not, we'll just cut it across the bottom. We'll just do the square. We'll keep that piece of metal, and then we'll come back, we'll weld it back in, grind it flush. You'll never know it was ever done. So not sure if we'll be able to save that nut, most likely not. So we may have to put a new nut in there and weld it in there. And yeah, it's the only thing holding us up now from getting it on dollies. So hell of a lot of work, guys, to strip these cars, and especially to make sure that you're keeping things organized along the way. I mean, I try to keep as meticulous as possible with the bagging and tagging. Even if there's just 2 little screws in here, guys, I try to make sure I know exactly where it goes back onto for when it comes to reassembling this car. So let's grab a wire wheel, let's grab some grinding discs, and yeah, let's open up this frame rail and finish welding this nut on. Alrighty, you guys, well, our 69 Roadrunner convertible is just about completely stripped, at least as stripped as I'm going to be taking it today, because I got to get my ass on the road and get to the Mopar Nationals this weekend. So here's where we're at. We've got our splash shields left on, we've got our door hinges, and I'm pretty sure that is it. So everything else has been stripped completely clean on this car. You know, we are going to transfer the brackets, the console brackets and different things to the new floor pan. But really, guys, everything that has a screw in it has been taken out of this car. It is officially ready to go get blasted and move it on to a whole lot more fun stuff. So, you know, taking the front fenders off, even these taillight housings, the extensions, you can see little tiny areas that we'll have to address, but nothing super significant that I uncovered there. We've got some hinge or some drip rails here, or excuse me, some trunk gutter rails here that are in pretty rough shape, so we'll go ahead and have to fix those as well. But really about the only thing that I added to the parts list that was not already on it is that lower radiator support. I just think for the cost for getting a new one versus repairing this old one, guys, it's a lot easier to just go ahead and replace it, and it'll look great when it's done. Down here where that frame nut was on the inside of the frame rail turned out really good, and that's my first time actually doing that on one of these cars, and it's good to know that it can be done, and it's actually really easy to do, because the charger, I think I have to do all 4 of those bolts because it's just so rusted and eaten away that yeah, I'd rather just go ahead and swap those out. But you know, guys, some of you may laugh when I say this, but this is an extremely solid car with great bones. We got to do pans, we got to do quarters, really not a big deal. But when you look inside and you see the inner structure as solid as that, and especially those mint frame rails on the inside of the car, it gets me excited, and it's going to save you know, the customer a whole lot of money on having to do that, or having to buy another car and, you know, weld 2 different cars together to get it back on the road. So that said, let's go ahead, we'll hop on the computer real quick. I'll give you a full parts breakdown and show you exactly how much it's going to cost just in metal to fix this car. All right, guys, so I've got the full parts breakdown here, and I'm going to go through it. And again, this is always from our friends over at AMD. So let's go through this list. So front floor pan, rear footwell pan, so the 2 that are kind of on the bottom between the rear seat pan and the floor pan, left hand, right hand side, trunk floor, trunk drops, trunk support brackets, lower grille panel, hood, quarter panels, the US Car Tools Stage 2 chassis stiffening kit. I know I keep saying the Stage 3. I'm so used to saying the Stage 3 with the other builds that I've got going on. But that kit is everything that the 3 has in it, except for there's no mini tubs for the rear wheel wells, and also the spring relocation kit, because this car is not going to be any wider in the back. So we've got that, the body bolt fastener kit, so that's hardware for the hood, the fenders, the doors, the deck lid, all brand new hardware. Love seeing that. Of course, all brand new nut plates as well, which, you know, a car like this old, you need to replace those anyway, so it's always nice to have some fresh, shiny new hardware on it. And then lastly, that lower radiator support piece. Now, I didn't type my address in here, so I don't have the entire freight cost in here, but I'll just tell you it's about 300 bucks to ship it to my house. So with the crating, boxing fee, everything out the door, you know, add $300 to that. So let's just say $54, $74, $86. That is just in the sheet metal. Okay, so thinking you're gonna buy a car, you know, that's got good bones, it's relatively, I say this is an easier build. You know, you're still going to be 5,000 bucks just in metal. You know, the interior work that's needed on this, the engine, the transmission. I mean, you can add it up and you can get to 30 to 40,000 bucks just in parts very fast. And this car is getting the whole QA1, you know, full tubular, everything, coilovers, the whole deal. That kit with the brakes is like 16 grand in itself. So very expensive build. And of course, the labor to do it all is also very expensive as well. So, but yeah, so this order is already on its way to the house. Actually, it's going to be here next week. And as I mentioned a few minutes ago, I am heading to the Mopar Nationals here in about 30 minutes. As fast as I can get showered and onto the road, I'm going to be doing it, and heading out that way. I'll be there this Sunday, and can't wait to see all you guys out there. So if you're out there, say hi. And yeah, guys, hit that subscribe button. You're not going to want to miss a minute of this build. The other builds that we got going on, I promise you guys I'm going to get back on the CUDA. And yeah, I'm waiting for some seals and other things in order to do body work. I want to make sure my panels are exactly where they need to be. So yeah, stay tuned. I'll see y'all again real soon.